good morning on what is a cool, blustery and changeable day. It's been overcast, now it's getting slightly brighter, but I'm here in the reading nook in between the rain showers with a nice hot cup of tea. It is Friday the 29th of October and I have a parcel to unpack. Been building them up a bit, so I've got something to actually look at. So let's get this one open. Inside. It is this, which is the Best of Dragon Volume 4. Now, how can I put it? Basically, the history, essentially, long-run magazines would often comb through their archives to pick out what their editors and basically and creators considered to be their best content, and repackage them in basically subsequent years for essentially so that people who hadn't seen them. Who hadn't seen that content because the magazines were obviously out of print and were difficult to find, could see that content once again. Now, White Dwarf did it 3 times with two different series. So there was Best of White Dwarf Scenarios 1, 2, 3, and 4, Best of White Dwarf Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's something that has been seen since in the sort of like in the fanzine movement a little bit. Where publishers will compile the best of their content over multiple issues, or even they will compile their content into essentially here's 10 issues of a fanzine they put out, one book. Okay, so Best of Dragon Volume 4, selected from out of print issues of Dragon magazine. Now there are 5 of these. I've unboxed believe the first 3. And I know I've got the 5th coming, because it would be interesting to see. I mean, I like reviewing all sorts of things to do with gaming and role-playing, and these don't often get enough love. Because essentially, you read a magazine and you go, I don't like that article. You turn over the page, I don't like that article. Oh, I like that article. And so not every article in a magazine is going to be of the standard that you like or want. So having the best of means you're getting the cream of the crop in one issue, and I think that's certainly the case with the Best of the White Dwarf scenarios and articles, because honestly, there are some absolute classic scenarios and articles in there, and I will be reviewing these at some point. So this was published. When was it published? Let's find out. Okay, this came out in 1985, and you can tell essentially by the kind of the look and layout of it, because obviously it very much looks like a sort of like a late AD&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons release, and you can tell basically these are all basically taken from sort of like issues of Dragon over the past sort of like 3 years. So we open up with the Bandit, a shifty non-player character, and you've got great artwork in there. I mean, that's Jim Holloway, and it's not just in the modules that the TSR artists illustrated. So literally, we open up. We've got a section of. It takes all kinds. This is part 1. This is this appears to be NPCs essentially. So we have the bounty hunter and the cloister cleric. So an NPC who rather prey on his knees rather than pray, as essentially what the player character cleric does. So there we go. Okay, so we've got complete stats and sort of like the rules for creating the cloister cleric, and this would have been for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, and this is quite a lengthy piece, in fact, because there were 7 pages, 7 through through 13, and then the Death Master, a mighty nasty magic using NPC, and this is by the late Leonard Lekofka, who is best known for L1 Secret of Bone Hill, which I reviewed this year and did an unboxing as well, because it was its 40th anniversary, in addition to his late passing as well. And this again is his length thing. So you've got this is a villain that goes up to level 13, complete with his own set of spells, and it does the same. Then we do basically, and then we do the same with the duelists. Again, NPCs which the dungeon master can throw at his players, and then we have also the jester, a comical, clever, charismatic NPC, and that's been done. I mean, that sort of thing has been done before over the years. Because one of the things you see in Dungeons and Dragons over the years is basically different takes on different character types. And this is, sorry, I'm being interrupted by a cat who is not ours, but he's very, very attached to us on the grounds that we do occasionally feed him, although he's not eating right now. Not that he needs to, because he's a good-looking boy, as it were. Hello, yes. So the rest of this unboxing will be accompanied by a cat who wants my attention. So yeah, we also got the scribe as well, and essentially these are not character classes that you would necessarily play. I think, for example, I know some players might play the justice, the jester, and also the duelist would be a popular character class. I mean, that possibly would be covered to some extent by the cavalier. And then we've got the scribe, an embassy with a right touch, and the smith. Again, they're not classes you necessarily play. And that's by Ed Greenwood. Again, interesting here. And then we go on to section the second section is from the player's perspective, and we open up with Luke Osfer, who basically he provided sort of a long-running, essentially, series of articles and commentary upon role-playing and Dungeons and Dragons, right from the sort of like the birth of its sort of like birth of the hobby and its growth into coverage through magazines. He's got articles in White Dwarf as well, and Imagine magazine. So we have Be Aware, Take Care, the Principles of Successful Adventuring. Again, a common enough article that here's a guide to being how to be a good player, how to be a good player essentially of Dungeons and Dragons in particular. But of course now that would apply to any retro clone and a lot of other fantasy role-playing games which are played in a similar vein. So let's have a look. So that's quite a lengthy piece. Then we get onto the material world, and that's looking at scrounging up spell components. And again, it's another commonly addressed subject, because essentially the whole idea in Vancian magic and D&D magic, if you have spell components, and you have to remember the spells, and essentially you can't cast the spells if you don't have the components. But how many players really play that? And yes, I know there are going to be people going, oh, I did, yes, I do that. Okay, how many? It's not really that common, I don't believe it, or certainly not in my experience. And again, it would in some cases it would take away from the game, the gameplay. Again, oh, I can't cast a spell, I've got to go and get this. But essentially, that sets up a sort of like a magic economy where, okay, you have shops that sell magical components, and of course the player could go and find his own. But again, he's got money, from his dungeon, so he goes back and buys the components to go back into the dungeon and armed with his spells. Of course, the other problem with the magic user character in the long run is that he needs magic to money to basically put into his spell research, and that's what's happening essentially in our old school essentials game, in that the magic user has to invest a lot of money in spell research. Every other character's walking around with sort of like a lot of money and what do I do with it? but again, we're still having fun. So we actually have a long list of spell components in here as well. Okay, oh god, the cat. He's being very insistent this morning. And then finish fights faster, a simpler system for unarmed combat. And again, it's a subject that that would be visited again and again. I mean, there's a commonality in a lot of these articles. Essentially, unarmed combat. Unarmed combat was always an issue in Dungeons and Dragons. It never quite really handled properly. Because essentially most of the time characters would be armed with their weapons and their swords, and it seems silly that okay, they would never go unarmed combat, but it happens. Then we have two-fisted fightings, so wielding more than one weapon. Again, you can see the rules for this kind of thing written into later editions. And then we have aerial mounts add a new dimension. Again, essentially how to take to the air with various mounts, because it's not just horses. You have pegasi, dragons, rocks, pterodons, and so on. And then 5 keys to success. We could basically come to let's have a look. 5 keys. This is section 3. It's not actually marked. Is it not just section 3? Oh yes, it is. So we have creative campaigns, and this is the section for the Dungeon Master. So we have 5 keys to success. DMing can be both fun and easy. So although Dragon Magazine did cover other games, including so obviously Top Secret and Boot Hill, Starfrontiers and so on, really ultimately it was a Dungeons and Dragons magazine, and it focused on that throughout its run, and all of the articles in the Best of Dragon so far, this volume certainly, is for Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, PC and his money can be parted in many ways. So that goes back to the point I was saying earlier about basically what do I do with the money. And this is another article by Luke Officer. So here we go. And some of this I think would be republished in the Imagine magazine as well, and the Care of Castles making one of them, then making it run. And again, that's an aim of the characters in the long term. Essentially, I've had enough of it, actual adventuring. I'm going to settle down and build myself a home. It's the fantasy equivalent of American homesteading, isn't it? In a sense, go out and stake, clear the wild frontier, build a home. Stately standards, friends of the gods with special powers, and this is all about saints. Again, I think each of these has got sort of like the illustration of the cover from where the issue came, the issue where the article came from, which is a nice addition. And then these are the breaks: weapon damage in AD&D. Okay, and wounds and weeds. Plants can save characters' lives. Again, that's great. I mean, basically, how to use particular herbs in healing for the players. It's not just relying upon the druid, the cleric with his healing spell, and the druid with his healing spells. It's also you can use particular herbs, and that plays into the strengths. If you're using a game where you definitely have skills, or you have a druid, because he'll hopefully know all about herbs. And we've got runes, strange marks, marked on the message. And this is kind of one of the things which is occasionally, how do you use other languages in your role-playing game? And because obviously, ever since Tolkien basically took the essentially basically had the map marked with the dwarvish ruins runes in The Hobbit, and then went into Moria. Dwarves use runes, so we have examples of both the Swedish and Danish runes there, and this question of how to use them in the games. And lastly, a Dwarven script with staying power, and this offers an alternative. Again, this is from Great Edward Greenwood. So essentially what we've got is the best of the best. Whatever happens to the do list, how can unarmed combat be resolved more quickly? Who lives in a castle? Where does the money go once adventurers find it? For years, questions like these have plagued Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game players the world over. Rumours that the answers had appeared in certain issues of Dragon magazine sent thousands of gamers to their local hobby shops and bookstores, but alas, the back issues had all disappeared and the knowledge was lost. Until now. Volume 4 of the Best of Dragon magazine anthology brings to light more lost lore from past issues, from runes to jesters, from saints to smiths, from herbs to half-ogres. Here are some of the most popular and most sought after of all articles that have appeared in the pages of Dragon magazine. If you've been looking for answers to the above questions and more, you'll find them in this collection. Pick up a copy and enjoy. That's a really nice blurb. There we go. Obviously that's entirely what the purpose of the Best of Dragon is, and I think that one fulfills. An interesting thing is that it would be interesting. I mean, a lot of this content would be released subsequently in the Dragon archives, CD-ROMs. If you've got those, you'll have had all this content anyway. It's a pain if you've got it. It's a pain to use, but it's all there. Again, you know, I will get around to reviewing this but there's 3 more before this. And I mean, I would love to sit down and start just reviewing all of the issues of Dragon magazine. That would be a Herculean task, and I don't have time for it. Not unless someone's going to start paying me for it. But in the meantime, that's the Best of Dragon magazine, volume 4. So I will be doing a review of this in due course. If you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook, then please do click the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do read those and respond. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings, where you will see me with a parcel and a book or a game or a magazine, which I will talk about, which I will unbox and talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. And let's not forget a co-starring role from the cat that is not ours. Then please do hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, thank you again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.